Welcome back everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a box joint jig using a template that you buy online and building the rest of it out of scraps from your workshop. All I did was build the jig part, which is a beam with a piece of plywood on top of it, and then you mount the plate onto the jig. I bought this box joint template off of Amazon for $13. It's the Woodstock International 5/8 inch aluminum box joint template. You see on the back of the packaging, it's meant to go into their model D2796 dovetail jig, and you can get different templates for it. I don't own the jig, but $13 for the template seemed like a really reasonable price. So I bought it, and what I'm going to do, and what I have seen done before, is you can make a jig for the template. So the two big parts that I have to make for this is a beam and a top plate. The beam will be made out of MDF because I like it nice and flat and even. So I'm going to use this, double it up, and make a beam out of it. And then I need a top plate made of plywood. So I've got this scrap piece of 1/2 inch plywood I'll use. Alright, so I've got my block glued up. I'm just going to put it on a scrap piece of 1/2 inch plywood, and then I'm going to take my pre-drilled plywood that I'm using for my plate. It's going to be mounted on top like that. So before I put the aluminum plate on, I'm going to attach the plywood. So now I've got my template mounted onto my plate. It's nice and solid, it's ready to go. I have to cut out the material between the fingers. That'll go right to the back of this plate here. This is my basic set of brass guide bushings. So I've got my 3 components, my bushing ring for fitting it, and I've got my upcut spiral bit, 1/4 inch. So that's what I'm going to use to clear up the material, and I'm going to use my handheld compact Makita router. For those of you not familiar with brass bushings, you just pop them in, take the ring on the other side. I have my bit installed. I'm going to set the depth at just under 1/4 inch. I'm going to do a very shallow pass at first. So far so good. That's the first pass done. And now we're going to do a second pass. So as you can see, I've still got plywood material on the inside of each finger, and that's going to need to come out. Now with the brass bushing, I could go to a different size bushing, but using the spiral bit at this point probably isn't going to work all that well. Now what I have installed in the router is a top bearing bit. So the top bearing will ride along the aluminum and will cut out the remainder of that plywood. So that worked really well with the top bearing bit. I was able to get right in there and cut out the last of that plywood. I've got my board clamped into my workbench, so I'm ready to go and try my first test cut. That's pretty well bang on. It's a little bit proud, which is okay. I don't think I'll change anything. It's not tight for sure, but it's just snug enough to really keep it together. Now, in terms of fit for the box joint itself, is not loose, it's not tight, it is not even snug really, but it is just right. So it'll just click in together. You can kind of feel that click when you press it together. There's no gapping at all. It's a nice, perfect fit. So that is exactly what you're looking for when you're trying to put one of these together, is you want a nice consistent fit, and you want the glue to do its job the way it's supposed to and not get all pushed out of the joint. By far, out of all the jigs that I've built, out of all the jigs that I've tried, this is probably the best and most consistent. I used a 9/32 of an inch guide bushing. So I used that, and I also used this 1/4 inch upcut spiral bit, and I got really great results. The initial test for this box joint jig went so smoothly. I think that I'll be using this a lot more often. I'm quite happy with the results. The construction for this was so easy. Anybody can make this. What I like about this jig is it's super fast to set up. I didn't even use a stop block. In some jigs you'll see a stop block for position 1, position 2, and you can certainly add that to this if you want to. I found it just as easy to line up the inside edge of a finger or the outside edge of the finger, and that usually does the trick. You can definitely use this to do bigger boxes, which you cannot do on a router table safely because you're trying to balance a board on a router table. It took me about 15 minutes to do that one box I just showed you, and considering it is a first run, that is phenomenally fast, for me anyway. If you want to buy me a beer, head on over to my Patreon page over here. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. There are a couple more videos on this side that you can watch. Until next time, thanks for watching, and have a great day.